Mike.
All set? Okay. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our Selectmen's meeting, and I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The special permitting meeting will be at 7:30. So I think I'll ask for committee reports. Are there any committee reports, Martha?
I wonder if we might be able to have a discussion with Jordy now before the special permit conversation starts.
Okay.
Okay. That was his truck with lights on? Okay.
At the last selectmen's meeting, Jordy was requested to go back and look at some options for parking alternatives at the south end of the Clipper City Rail Trail Phase 2 on Parker Street. And he's done so, and they were sent to the selectmen, and I actually have larger copies here for all of you. But we also wanted to give you an update of some conversations and other options that we've been talking about today, and just kind of let you know where it stands. So I know that this was probably hard to see in the computers and in the
You think?
your packets. So these are 8.5 by 11s of the options that
Thank you.
Jordy had sent previously.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We basically, as you had directed, there's obviously some concern about the option we brought forward about the parking directly off of Parker Street and a half dozen spaces there, which in this packet is presented as option 1. And so I did go back and look, or we went back and looked at maybe half a dozen different attempts to try to see where else could we put some parking to have some parking at this end. Yeah, both to the north and the south of Parker Street. We tried several different versions north of Parker Street. Option 2 is a version essentially north of Parker Street. These aren't the most beautiful sketches in the world because I drew them, but I did check them with our landscape architect and engineer, and he said that these were sound in terms of their measurements, even though somewhat sloppy in their rendering. The attempts to try to put parking in a little bit closer to the road, but off the road, near the I'll talk more into that. Near the apple tree there, it's just too constricted.
We're on option 2, Goody.
We're on option 2.
Yep.
I'm sorry, we don't have the ability to print a big plan, so
It's all right.
11 by 17. So trying to go in right off of the road, off-road, but relatively near the road, it's too close to the wetlands that are there. It affects the wetlands too much, the swale that exists. There's a culvert in there. And so those were essentially nixed by our engineers and landscape architects. They said you could potentially push it farther back, so pushing it farther back in the corridor. And this was essentially past the push pole, if any of you are familiar with that area out there. However, one of the problems with that is that it is relatively near the residence here, the abutter, the Greeleys. So, and I believe Martha had talked with him, and he's supportive of the trail, but not very supportive of the idea of a parking area near his house, which is understandable. Just going through the rest of the packet, I also tried to look on the other side of the street, south side of Parker Street, and using what's called option 3 here is using the corridor, most of the corridor, to put in parking, an access road, and an adjacent pedestrian and bike lane, and then a crosswalk, which you could potentially put a flashing pedestrian signal there, like they have on Route 97 or down on Merrimack Street, across from Merson. It's at the crest of the hill. One of the problems with this option, again, is that the abutter, Matt Kazaki, again, supportive of the trail, doesn't like the idea very much of having this parking area near his house, near his near his turkey barn, near the livestock in the other areas. In the packet, option 4 is our basic fallback, which is no parking, which is just bring the trail as originally planned, bring it to Parker Street. People coming from High Street or coming from the downtown will walk there and walk back. Other people will make their way to this trailhead as they will, and we'll see what happens. Martha had suggested when I was talking to her today a potential other option. I don't know if you want to
Yeah, I'll
take
just,
the floor.
Actually, Christine Wilkinson and I were looking at options today for this, and there is a piece of what's identified as town-owned property right next to the corridor on the other side from Matt's land, and I'm just gonna pass this out to you all.
Well, Martha's passing it out. Dave Shepard on the Newburyport side of the line a few years ago got permission to put it was going to be a structure there. Right now, he's just using it to park vehicles because of the downturn in the economy. But, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. So you'll actually, there are 2 aerials attached to this. One is an aerial of the entire parcel, and the other is an aerial of the end of it, which is adjacent to the Shepherd's parking, and actually for whatever reasons that didn't show up on this aerial, so I apologize for that. This seemed like it might be a viable option. Jordy pulled out plans from when the Shepherd's parking was permitted, which does have a wetlands delineation, and that actually shows more wetlands on the lot than what shows up on our assessor's maps. So there are some things to actually sort out before we could even really go ahead with considering this. We had originally wanted to ask you tonight whether you all would be open to at least taking a look at it as an alternative. So it would be on the other side from the trailhead, but again, there would be a crosswalk and a flashing pedestrian light and that kind of thing.
So in other words, this is basically across from the cemetery entrance?
Exactly.
Yes.
And Dave Shepard's piece is where he parks the cars is next to that?
Yes.
And this piece is owned by the town now?
Our assessor's records show that it's owned by the town.
This is sort of a late breaking idea, so that would need to be confirmed.
Right.
Right.
Fully vetted before anything
Yeah.
happens.
It was on the list.
I don't remember it.
It was.
Okay.
I say that just because a few years ago, looking at these plans that were submitted, when that Shepherd project was going, it was listed as owned by the Oak Hill Cemetery. And then some kind of conveyance was made to Shepherd, and I just haven't had time, gone back to that time, to track down exactly what happened to that parcel.
Right, I pulled up
Past
one
5
deed,
years.
and it looks like there was actually an easement granted to the town on it back in '65 for recreation and a baseball. And so I haven't had a chance to look any further to see, exactly what the status of the parcel is.
Okay.
So there are potential wetlands issues and there's potential ownership issue, but it might be worth at least exploring it before we throw out the idea, if you all are open to that.
See, one of the things that makes it attractive to me is I understand why people want some parking. But off-road parking gives people the chance to unload the bikes, maybe get out and then still have your hand on your charge, so the kids aren't running up. When you're gonna park parallel like we had as a first option, it's pretty hard to unload the car, watch the kids, get them out of the doors. The doors are gonna be open to the street because, it's pretty steep on the other side. Yeah, they gotta cross the street, which is tough too, but at least it's off-street. I'll ask one more time. There's no off-street parking available on the Newburyport north side next to the rail trail.
It's potentially available in the sense that you could physically fit some cars in on either side. The corridor is narrow there, but when I sketched those up, the 2 issues were, one, if you put the, I'm gonna walk away from the here.
Do you want to take
This
it
is the
with you?
point.
Okay, it's a wireless microphone, you can take it with you.
Ba-ba-ba-boom.
This is,
I usually don't get to carry one around.
this is
And
the cemetery, right?
putting
This.
putting parking nearer on the side there.
Which plan are you playing right now?
This is a little different, okay. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff is asking about whether one can have parking a little bit closer in. When I did try, and I don't have them here because they were nixed by the consultants we're working with. When I tried to put them in on either side here, we were encroaching on the wetlands that are on either side of the corridor here. There's an existing swale, those culverts going through here. And certainly when you have it on the southern side, again, we have the issue of being up next to the abutter's property line. Over on the other side, the abutter is the Oak Hill Cemetery. I haven't talked with them, and so maybe that's potentially less of an issue in terms of the abutters, but we still have these resource constraints. So,
Resource constraints meaning money to regrade the area?
Wetlands.
meaning the wetlands.
Wetlands,
Yeah,
yep.
wetland resources.
So with option 2, the reason you went in so far with the parking is just to get away from the wetlands.
We get away from the wetlands, the property opens up, there's a lot more room back there. So, that's the analysis, that was the way that proceeded.
Was there, on the Newburyport side, where the rail trail goes up, let's see, on the cemetery side, wasn't there a gravel pit up in there somewhere?
In terms of,
Close by. And
I
didn't
don't
know- and I didn't know if the city owned it, or.
Hiller.
Was it
Bruce Hiller
Hiller's
owns
pit?
that.
oh,
Yeah.
on the other side, Hiller,
Mhm.
yeah, which is really on the Newbury side.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. And there had been discussions as a short sidebar between Hiller and the city's water department for a number of years. And Mr. Hiller wanted to sell his land, but the water department ended up deciding not to purchase it. So I guess because of price. I wasn't involved in those discussions. So it's, I don't know if one thing you're suggesting is going farther in, so you're sort of farther away from residential abutters and getting farther in. The farther we get in, the more we run into issues with National Grid. I mean, every option we look at, unfortunately, we're having a whole set of pros versus cons. And National Grid has tended to want us to get away and get vehicles away from their utility poles and their overhead lines, which is one reason why the trail is getting off of that corridor as quickly as possible and going through the woodlands. So having a longer access road and bringing cars farther back there, that would, I'm speculating, would be a challenge with National Grid. I'm not sure of that. I haven't raised this recently with the representatives there.
Just to clarify a little again,
Yeah.
when you spoke about the wetland and resource issues
Yeah.
next to the cemetery,
Yeah.
were they fully reviewed?
They've been reviewed by wetland specialists in terms of delineating what we have to come to the Concoms in both the city and the town for. So they have verified that it's small, it's a small wetland area, but it is there. So that's what we know.
But I'm meaning that there's no room for parking because of that small, or there could be some parking, but it might interfere somewhat?
In terms of the dimensions that are required, in terms of essentially a 20-foot access road, 10-foot vehicular lanes, and then the parking stalls, one needs a 40 to 42-foot essentially width for the parking stalls, 20 to 22 feet deep, and that amount of room is really not available given, you know, in trying to fit that cross section in. We can drop it in on the plan, drop it in on the map, but when you put in a 40-foot cross section like that, that's where we can't make it work in terms of what's happening on both sides.
And also, you mentioned with these options that involve using the utility corridor, that if if you fill it up with parking and road, then there's an issue about continuing, because I'm sure everybody would like to see it go all the way to the train station
Right.
at some point, so.
Right, yes, ramifications for the future extensions and so forth become an issue as well. It's hard to know how that'll all play out, but, you know, that's part of the puzzle also.
Well, I'd say the next step would be to look a little further at the town-owned piece, but I think that's where you gotta, you know, bring, you know, someone like Mike in too. You know, Mike might, meaning Mike Riley, our chief of police, might really say it's more dangerous to have people crossing the street than, because he didn't see much, you know, he wasn't strictly against the parallel parking either, so.
But as you point out, it may turn out that wetlands issues will take that property off the table too.
Right,
Yeah.
right, so we'd like to go out and, you know, take a look at it
Yep.
with Doug and,
Yep.
you know, talk about.
Great
what
idea.
would be.
Yep.
So just in summary, just to make sure I understand the direction, the answer is essentially yes. Look with Martha, Doug Packer, et cetera, Chief Riley, look at that town-owned piece, assuming it is town-owned.
Yep.
And after verifying that, and seeing whether that seems like even a possibility, given the permitting issues and the wetlands resource constraints. Check that out as a possibility. And then I think as I'm hearing from Jeff, maybe take a second, third look at the notion of trying to get some parking in on the Oak Hill Cemetery side, closer into the road. Maybe it's parallel parking as opposed to nose-in parking, as a way to, is it possible to fit anything in there without running into these wetlands issues?
Right.
Is that an appropriate course of action?
Yeah, just one other thing, I mean, if it looks like parallel parking along Parker Street is the main viable option, is there some way we could address Jeff's concern about, you know, unloading bikes and stuff, where there might be some place where a vehicle could pull in on a temporary basis to unload bikes and children or whatever, but then have to park along Parker Street, so we wouldn't have so many people
Yep.
unloading right there in the street.
As in one or two spaces where like standing is allowed or something?
Yeah, something like that,
a
just-
drop-off area?
Well, I think some of the concern was too, and David's, you know, being creative, but, you know, winter is a concern, because if people are parking there also, you know, during the months that it's open, they're probably gonna try to slip in there when the wing plow goes by and gives them just a little space.
Right,
You know, it's kinda like making it the Wild West. I mean, if there's a place to pull off the road,
yeah,
and that probably won't even get plowed, maybe it will get plowed.
yeah.
But, you know, I think in some respects, it's just too bad it wasn't on the other side of the road. You know, I can't seem to get a break.
Yeah. Like many projects, there's lots of different scenarios that could work, right? There's pros and cons for all of them. And frankly, having no parking, I think it's unfortunate, which is why I've been trying to sort all this out. But it is possible, right, that we can't figure out the parking now, and we put the trail in, we see how people respond, and we come back later and do something as if the momentum is there to do so. So that it is a possibility. But in the meantime, I appreciate your patience with all these options and so forth.
Well, if we look a little, this just came to me. I
Yeah.
mean, if we think about it, if the connection, you know, if the rail trail is connected to the other side and goes to the rail station,
Yeah,
certainly gonna be a lot of the crossing of the road then.
yeah, certainly.
So, you know, probably I'm a little too worried about crossing the road, because that'll certainly be going
But I-
on.
But I think the trail crossing that you currently have across Parker Street on the other side of Route 1
Yep.
seems to be working pretty well, because I
Seems to be
drive through
working
there very
fine.
frequently, usually during the time, because I'm dropping my wife off at the train station, where a lot of people are coming and going, and that,
Yeah.
the light doesn't always function properly, but.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about that system, and I do like the system, as I was mentioning, that's at Merson, Old Ferris Shawmut, on Merrimack Street, and I've seen for another rail trail on Route 97. But it's similar in terms of blinking lights and eye-catching. So I think the crossing can be dealt with safely. It takes more money, but I think that can be addressed. So I'm personally less concerned about that as a constraint.
Yep.
It's these other issues where,
And I imagine if you look at the land contiguous to where the rail trail's gonna be, you could have an entrance and an exit not too far away from that, where that
Right.
blinking light would exist anyway, so,
On the town-owned piece.
right.
Yeah, the idea you would take, if there's enough upland there, et cetera, you could put in some small parking area and then an area for people to walk a little bit along to the corridor and then
And boom.
have a
Yep.
squared off crosswalk. So, all right,
All right.
we'll play those out and come on back.
Thank you for all
Okay.
this work.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, any other committee reports? Kathleen?
I was just gonna say, maybe this would, since we have a few minutes, that this would be a good time for me to report from the media committee that, we
Okay.
went live with our Newbury channel last Tuesday. This will be the first meeting, that we're broadcasting live. We've got a studio, TV studio crammed in the back room, more equipment down in the basement. And I think the other thing people should realize is that, this is all paid for by Comcast. So a little tiny piece of each bill that you pay to Comcast comes back to the town to support these equipment. We've got 3 remote-controlled TV cameras on the walls and so forth. And, you know, we're at the very beginning, and so we'll be looking for volunteers to help, you know, video more of our meetings and so forth. You know, we've got right now we've got a part-time consultant helping us out, and that's about it. So we're really gonna need those volunteers as we go forward. Also going forward, we'll be looking to the larger community to help provide us with interesting content that we can put on. So, you know, interviews with some of the old timers that have colorful stories, whatever, you know, and also, you know, we're in the process of communicating with the surrounding communities because every public access channel has sort of the same problems. How do we get some interesting content? And so there's a fair amount of trading back and forth that goes. So on the TV channel, there's information about how to make contact if you're interested in volunteering and so forth, or if you're still here after the meeting, you could talk to our consultant, Caleb, who's currently in the back room, probably pointing a camera at me as I speak. But I think it's pretty exciting after all these years that we finally got to the point, and now we gotta do is make the channel interesting and not repeat the same selectmen's meeting, you know, 24/7 for a week, so.
Channel 9.
9.
So those old timers, David, is that selectmen's meetings anyway?
Mike,
Yeah.
If we have time, can we address D?
Oh,
If we have time, can we address D?
Chief, could I just ask, do you have a set time for when the selectmen's meetings are gonna be running?
there is, the way that right now where it's set up is that between sort of active content like meetings or other types of things, there are periods where there's a bulletin board
D,
type thing.
Blazing Saddles,
Okay.
Yeah.
because the representative
And then,
needs to.
but going forward, we're gonna try to make better use of the town website and stuff to provide other ways that people can check what the program schedule is and so forth, so we're.
people, right now, they just consider this, if you turn it on.
Yeah, but I think pretty quickly we'll start getting some up on the town website, so, is again, you know, we got all the bugs out of the equipment, now we're getting into the more interesting stuff like what you're asking about. And also going forward, you know, we wanna get some more portable equipment, so we'll be able to go to, you know, other venues besides town hall and so forth, so we have the budget for it, but we're trying to take one step at a time, make sure everything works before we take the next step, so.
Okay.
Where's Paula? Is Paula here tonight? Where is she?
Is Paula here? With Blazing Saddles? She is.
Okay. Before we go any further, I want to jump down to Roman numeral 6D. It's a request for the use of the Upper Green as a rest stop for the North Shore Cyclist Blazing Saddles Century Club ride. The date is August 17th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., and there was a letter in the file. You want to come forward and...
Find it.
Hey, just... And make your request. Go ahead. Ready with you.
Yes, I think for the past, 20 years, we've used the green as a rest stop for our Blazing Saddle Sentry. And this is just another year that we would request the green as a rest stop.
Okay.
You know, people get sandwiches and sit for a few minutes and then carry on. It's halfway into our ride. It's a 50-mile stop.
Yeah. How long, 50 miles? How long is the ride?
100.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. No problems in years past, Kathy? You've been doing- Yeah, so,
We
the
try to
cleanup and-
keep it
yeah.
very, very tidy. We try to respect our neighbors.
How many cyclists do you expect this year?
Could be anywhere from 200 to 300.
Wow.
It's a big ride.
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a sorry, Dave. No, go ahead. I'll second it, so.
Okay, I move that we approve the request.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's a vote.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Thanks a lot.
We can do the minutes.
Okay.
That's G.
Has everybody had a chance to read the April 9th minutes of the Selectmen's meeting? Are there any errors or omissions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. The board approved the April 9th Selectmen's minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's a vote. Aye. I think, is there anything else, Stacy? We're right at the, all right. It's almost 7:30. It's almost time to open up the continuation of the special permit application for the solar installation of the Pikel Farm off Scotland Road. This was continued from our April 9th meeting. There will be no public testimony tonight. All the discussion will be on what we've heard by the board members, and which will result in a vote that will be taken. We have a recommendation from town council on how to conduct the vote, and I'll read it so that everybody's aware of what the procedure is going to be. A positive finding is required for each applicable criteria, A through E, in order to approve the special permit application. Based on the information presented during the public hearing, the board makes the following findings, and these are each A through E has to be voted on individually. A is that the proposed use, building, or structure is for the best interest of the town, and it requires a yes or a no vote from each selectman. B, that the proposed use, building, or structure is not injurious and obnoxious to the neighboring properties. That also requires a vote by each selectman. C, that the proposed use, building, or structure will satisfy a community need or convenience not otherwise being served. Another vote. And then D, the proposed use, building, or structure will not affect abutting and nearby properties by increasing traffic and on-street parking, and that has to be voted on. And E, that nothing connected with the use, building, or structure, such as machinery, vehicles, materials, supplies, equipment, waste materials, shall be stored between the street line and the front line of the structure or building, not be visible from the street. Okay, that's basically the procedure we want to follow. I believe I'll open it up now for discussion. I believe, do any of the board members have anything they want to discuss on the materials that were presented over the last 3 weeks of testimony that we heard?
Well, I guess I'll say something just to get the conversation started. I think, for me, this has been a very difficult path, which will lead to a series of votes tonight. And to sum it up, I said to a lot of people, this is sort of the right project in the wrong place. So we've got a project, I'm a strong proponent of renewable energy. I'm concerned about climate change and things like that. On the other hand, I think, the common pasture in this particular parcel in particular is something that's many people feel is important because of its historic nature and the fact that it's one of the best inland vistas we have in the community, and it's sort of the gateway to the town. So I think that's what we're wrestling with. And as we work our way through the questions, and I kind of think fairly quickly, probably the best way to organize this discussion would be to just take one question at a time, because as town councils advise us, the way our special permit process is defined, it's an and, so we have to be voting in the affirmative on every one of these. So if any one of these is something that does not get a majority vote, since the four of us are the supermajority, that immediately means that the project does not pass. So I think it's pretty important for us to think about each of those votes, since we have to vote, in the affirmative on all of these different points if we're going to approve the project. So that's just my personal feelings about why this is difficult, and then secondly, just suggesting a way of moving forward.
I agree with you. Jeff, you had questions at our last session. Did they get answered? Are you satisfied with?
Probably not satisfied with the answers I got because of the ability to put enough information together. But, part of that process is, might not exist at this time in the special permit process. And I was locking up very significantly at the last meeting to do with the proposed tax agreement, or, which is basically a pilot, or how the structure would be taxed in the benefits to the town. That probably does come later, or can come later. I think David articulated with relevance, what we have to do and where we stand. It's kind of funny. This process, which we all thought hinged so much on the proposed bylaw, actually goes back to our existing agricultural residential bylaw, in the respect that a lot of these things we're looking at is that, because the new bylaw isn't in place. It is a special permit, and the applicant subjected themselves to a special permit, and that's why we're in this position. So, and there is certainly some things about the special permit that make selectmen, or the grantor of the special permit, look at it with a jaundiced eye in certain perspectives, because you can't make a statement, is it, let's say, a detriment or obnoxious to the, you gotta take and say exactly what that is, and basically view isn't part of it. So it gets hard as you go on. You gotta be very substantial in your thinking. So that's where we stand, at least that's where I stand.
Chuck?
I think David was right. It's the perfect project in the wrong spot. And we have no choice but to vote for it. I'm not going to say any more.
We have no choice but to vote. Whether we vote for or against is up to each of us, right?
Yep.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to either approve or deny A. Based on the information presented during the public hearing, the board makes the following findings: that the proposed use, building, or structure is for the best interest of the town.
You have to each vote.
No, no,
Well, we have to-
somebody's making a motion. No?
Right, and then we have to discuss it before we vote, so.
Okay.
Well, in order to get the conversation started, once again, I'll make a motion, and
How you gonna make
I
that
can make it in the
motion?
positive or the negative, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
because we still discuss and vote appropriately.
Yeah.
So, in order to really get this thing going, I'm going to make a motion that we do not find that this project is in the best interest of the town. But again, you can vote yes or no on that motion.
Okay, motion is made.
I mean, it's probably gonna be hard to get a second,
Yeah.
but if it's for the sake of discussion, I'll second it.
Okay, discussion. Right, so let me,
Because-
since I started this, let me start the discussion. So, you know, in terms of the best interests of the town, we've got positives and we've got negatives. I think on the positive side for the project are the tax revenues, but as Jeff has pointed out, we still don't have a good idea. We know that if we don't come to an agreement on a tax agreement and it does not get passed by town meeting, we go back to our conventional way of assessing things. And so, you know, we don't know exactly what the project's gonna be worth when it's installed, but, you know, the numbers that have been kicked around are in the $7 to $10 million range. And so what we can do then is that we have to think about how are we gonna depreciate this thing, because it's not gonna be worth as much 25 years from now it is today. And of course, the applicants would like to see a very aggressive depreciation schedule, because that, over the lifetime of the project, would reduce their taxes. You know, me looking at it from the town point of view, I think a much more conservative sort of approach, like straight line depreciation, you know, would be more beneficial to us. And so then you look over the lifetime of the project, which is presumably 25 years is the number people have been using, then, you know, if we have this really aggressive type of schedule and kind of a low-end estimate for the project cost, you know, we might say over 25 years the revenue to the town might be $500,000. If we take a more conservative approach or push up the value of the project a little bit, once the assessors come up with a value, we might be looking at $1 million. And so when we start dividing that over 25 years, just simple division before we deal with inflation and all that other kind of stuff, we're talking in the $20,000 to $40,000 per year average over the 25-year lifetime of the project. But then, you know, what we're doing is we're saying, if we went this way so that we can budget more evenly over those 25 years, we would be giving up tax revenue in the first few years in return for more tax revenue in the out years. So, but with inflation, those dollars are gonna be worth less than dollars today. So then we gotta throw in some fudge factor for inflation, and Lord knows who's got the crystal ball these days in terms of inflation. But, you know, the kind of stuff I have to do for budgeting with the federal government and so forth is, we're normally looking at like 2.5%, 3% per year right now. But again, you know, that's just a good guess, but we don't know what the answer is. So, you know, if we're going to go with a tax agreement where which I think is advantageous for the town and for the applicants if the project goes forward, it would be something up a little higher than what you would get just by taking the 25-year average and, you know, tax revenue and dividing evenly by 25. So, but again, I'm saying, you know, the starting point is probably in the 20 to 40,000 per year on average over the lifetime of the project. Boost that up a little bit for inflation. And again, these are just wild ballpark numbers. We don't know. But to me, okay, that's a clear benefit to the community. And of course, on the cost side, so to speak, you know, is what value do we put on the common pasture in general in terms of its history, the fact I mentioned it's a gateway to the town. A lot of people don't realize that even in the introduction to our master plan, the common pasture was identified as something we should be protecting. And I think a number of people have spoken eloquently about how passionate they are about it. This particular parcel being, you know, a significant chunk, but not all of, by any means, all of the common pasture, is a little unique in that it's the only place along Scotland Road where you can already see all the way to Hale Street. You know, everywhere else, trees and so forth block the view. So it's a little unique in that respect. And so for me, you know, yes, the tax benefits would be nice, but compared to the overall budget of the town, it's a drop in the bucket. And so I'm leaning towards my motion, you know, which is to say that this is not in the benefit to the town, mainly because the tax benefits, in my mind, I'm having a hard time saying that they count more than the historic value and so forth that we've heard about the common pasture. So that's just where I'm coming from at this point.
Now, let's, in kind of a pragmatic fashion, let's look at what David said, because it's certainly, David tried to say it without prejudice. I mean, he looked at it as well as he could with the information that he has. But let's dialectically, let's start to take it apart, all of us, including you, Dave.
Yep.
Let's really look at it. Because what's at stake here is this also the kind of town that you want to live in, folks, where people's property rights don't mean anything? So we have to, start to put stuff on one side, and then let's talk about the common pasture is a beautiful place. But does 15 or maybe 17 acres destroy the common pasture? Are the birds not gonna fly and the animals run? Or is it the view that we're talking about? Now, I don't mean to, I just don't want, David was eloquent, he's good, but I don't want this board not to have to get into the real nitty-gritty of what they're examining, because it would be too easy for us to get off the hook. Green energy is supposed to be as good as sliced bread. Everyone's supposed to love it. And the other things that I spoke, so let's, and I'm sure there's other ways that we can really look at what David said really mean. Because I think we gotta look at it that way. And I think paramount, at least for me, still falls back to, people do have certain rights with their property. I can tell you one thing, if I were the Pikelson sitting out there, I probably wouldn't be looking at me with big smiles. So, that's what I'm trying to do. So where do you wanna go with that?
Well, I'll go next, okay?
Yes.
I'm gonna take an opposing view, I usually do. In addressing is the proposed use, building, or structure, is it in the best interest of the town? Okay. David addressed taxes, and everybody seems to be limited with taxes. The reason we're going to solar, the reason the green people wanted us to go to solar, have wind machines, wind turbines, is because they wanted clean energy. They didn't want any more nuclear plants. They don't want to use coal anymore. They are converting some of these power plants to natural gas. As a selectman, I'm thinking about the whole town of Newbury. Okay, how soon we forget the blackouts we had, sometimes in the winter, but we were without power for a week or two at a time, not because of a tree falling on a line, but because of an overload and electric heat, and especially in the summer, we had these different brownouts because the transformers blew out. And I remember one time, all the poles from Route 95 to Haverhill were on fire. And because they were overloaded, okay, the grid is not up to where it should be. And we need an alternative energy source. This is the beginning for Newbury. This weekend, it just happened, I belong to a tractor club. I went out to Northfield, Mass. We had what we call a plow day out there. And I drove out Route 2, and I took a ride on Route 63, and I headed north. And the minute I came into the town of Northfield, where our event was gonna be, there was a big sign there. It said, "This is a right to farm community," okay? Right across the street from that sign was the biggest solar array I've ever seen. And that road runs parallel with the Connecticut River. So I could look over it, and I could still see the Connecticut River. And the power company had put that in there. And I had the opportunity to talk to the different farmers. There were a lot of farmers at this event I was at. And I asked them what they thought about it. And he said it had no effect on, it really was a positive thing for them, because it gave them additional power for their barns and stuff like that. They were able to get the benefit from it. So they were getting benefit from the power. And when you're running large freezer plants or stuff like that, you can't have an outage in the summer. And then in the winter, the same thing. If you start having and we're starting, our power outages are longer and longer all the time. In the winter, you can't go 3 or 4 weeks without, you freeze your homes up, and then everybody's gonna be complaining. So it's a trial thing. Our government has put out money for this, and they're promoting it. And number one, I don't want to see the property owner deprived. You know, we allow him to pay taxes, but, you know, he can't do anything else with his property. This is a temporary thing. It's not gonna do permanent damage to the property. It sits on top of the ground. In 20 years, when it goes through its life expectancy, it'll either be renewed or it'll be taken down, okay? And I see no reason why we can't pass this, you know, and I think do we need it? I think we need it. And I'm speaking for Newbury, but I'm also speaking, you know, everybody has their different reasons why they don't want it, okay? But when you're driving down Scotland Road, you're gonna be hard pressed to see that from the car. And if you're up high, you may look down on it, but as the shrubs and it's groomed on the outside, it'll really fit in. That one that's right beside the road in Northfield, you don't even notice it. I had to look twice for the night. I realized it was and it was big. There was a lot of them there, but it really added to the community. And right across the street from that was a conservation district. I sent you pictures of it. Okay. Yeah, I sent you pictures. I took pictures of it with my cell phone, so I sent them to Kathy. So that's the way I feel about it. You know, I don't want to deny a property owner a chance to gather some revenue from his property. And, you know, the town's gonna benefit because we're gonna get power from it. We'll also benefit because we're getting taxes. And then it returns to what it was from the beginning, you know.
Re-articulate that too,
Right.
Mike, because I don't think some people realize, Tracy, because I don't know if I really realized on a broad base during the presentation either, what are the municipal buildings gonna benefit? We're gonna benefit from, we're getting a electricity break, the town is.
That hasn't been
Oh,
determined.
that's
at this
part of
point.
what we're doing.
And just to add another thing, it's not a dangerous form of electricity. Go to Beverly High School, they've had it for 20 years out there, and they added to theirs. They power their whole high school with that, with solar power. And almost all the farms in the Midwest, if you get the farmers' magazines, almost all the large barns, they all have solar on the roof. And they power their barns, and they get heat from it and whatever. So, I mean, I'm in favor of it, so.
Can we revisit the motion? Your motion was, it is not in the best interest of the town?
That's the way
Yeah.
you worded it. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so a yes vote will defeat finding A.
Right.
Correct.
Would you prefer to make it in the town council?
Well, I mean,
has
it's been made and
provided?
seconded. I mean, we can vote either way, so I didn't mean to make it confusing. I just thought I would take the
Meaning the
more
town-
more
That's why I
controversial
wanted, the risk of
approach.
sounding naive, that's why I wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Either way, I mean, I haven't said myself, I'm leaning towards supporting, you know, the motion as I made it, but I really wanted to hear from everybody. We've heard, probably want to do another round on this, because this is sort of really key, I think, that some of these other things, would be hard pressed to argue that some of these other ones aren't satisfied, but it seems like this is one of the key ones that is really where the rubber meets the road, and we have to figure out how we want to come down on it, so that's what I did and why I said what I
Okay.
said.
Well, Mr. Chairman, there's a motion on the table, seconded. We either withdraw the motion or we vote.
I was hoping I could hear from you, Chuck. If you don't, I mean, obviously, you're not obligated to talk.
I will go back to what you said earlier, it is the right project in the wrong spot. And I can't see where that's in the interest of the town. I really can't. I think it would be better served if they were out in the woods where you can't see them. That's my personal opinion, but I can't let my personal opinion get in the way of voting what's best for the town. So, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, motion made and second, any other discussion?
Well, let's once again go
Okay.
over how the motion was made.
Yep.
So that everyone realizes it. The motion was made, David, once again,
Okay, that it is not in the best interest, so that means that if you believe it is in the best interest and that you want to approve the project, then your vote should be no. If you wish to defeat the project, then your vote should be yes.
now, are you all aware of that?
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, what's your opinion right now?
You wanna go back to the way it was?
If you'd consider a friendly amendment, I
Do you
think
mind-
it
do you
would
mind-
That's fine with me, I honestly don't care.
clearer if it's
Make
the
it
way
clear that.
Do you wanna
council
take it
drafted
back
it,
and then
that way
we'll-
Okay,
there's
so
no confusion
I-
later.
Excuse me, if I could make a short comment?
Let us do this first. All right, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I would be perfectly willing to take a friendly amendment to change my motion so that the motion would be that we do find that the buildings and structures are in the best interest, so that a yes vote would be in favor of the project and a no vote
Okay.
would be against.
And
it.
I'll,
Okay.
and I'll
If
second
that
that.
helps
Okay.
things.
So you need to withdraw your motion first.
Yep.
First one.
Okay.
Right, so I guess I'll withdraw my motion. I will make the motion the other way around, that I move that the,
Finding
Structure
A as
is-
proposed.
yeah, is in the best interest of the town.
Okay.
So that-
Word is the key here.
And I'll second it again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
No need to return to the discussion unless people have other points they want to bring up.
okay.
Jeff, I kind of sensed maybe you had something else you wanted to bring up before we voted. But if you don't.
I'm still as, I'm still at a loss for needing more information on how the fiscal parts of this unravel, but I'm not so sure in some respects, as you said earlier, David, that the amounts are so drastic that it changes if it is in the best interest of the town. So that's where that kind of
Well,
leaves me.
again, as I understand it, town council has advised us that in some sense we have three options. One is to vote to approve the project, one is to deny the project, a third one is to deny the project without prejudice on the grounds that we didn't have enough information to make our decision. So in some sense, we've got three options on the table.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't we told we could revisit the financial side of it?
Right, I mean, it's a separate
Periodically.
agreement, because if we go with a tax agreement, that has to be approved at town meeting, so we don't have the authority. We can participate in the negotiation, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, the authority to approve such agreement sits with town meeting, right? That's my understanding.
Well, I've always thought we're in a weaker position once we vote this, but still.
You think?
All right,
I don't know where the public hearing's closed, if we can recognize
I
the
don't,
lawyer.
we
or
were
not.
advised that it's not appropriate to receive
Oh.
input from either parties, any of the parties involved, so.
I,
In my experience, if a board has a question, it can ask a question and get an answer.
We're okay.
I can't entertain that right now. Let's do it again, David, so I know that right now there's like three different
Didn't mean to
things going
confuse
through my head.
Okay.
You're making a motion that we approve the project?
Well, no, we have to take each one of these ones separately.
Okay, but, no, but
For
you're
part
making, you're making a motion that we approve,
That we find that the building or structure is
in the best interest of the town.
And I seconded it.
And that's
It
seconded.
is as it reads
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then what David said is
right,
that there is, as there is in probably a special permitting procedure, the ability to be uncomfortable with the amount of information that's presented. And you could probably deny without prejudice if you so chose, and ask them to go back to the drawing board.
All right, but the motion right now is to approve that the just to find that the proposed use, building, or structure is for the best interest of the town, and it's been seconded.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
No, you have to do
Individual.
roll call.
Individual.
Okay, individual. Chuck?
Yes.
Okay, I'm yes. Mike Bulgaris.
Dave,
No.
And I'm yes.
Okay,
you don't have to go on.
Good.
No, you do. You have to take each of the individual votes.
okay.
Why? Yes, sir. All right.
Okay. So we need a supermajority, so it really doesn't carry, but it's,
I'll make a motion that
The
the
vote is-
proposed use of the buildings or structures is not injurious or obnoxious to the neighboring properties.
I'll second.
Second.
okay, motion made in second. Any discussion on this?
The discussion on this one, for me, was probably one of the hardest because of what we've heard from people.
Excuse me, I really must object, and I must say something, if you allow me, please. I don't know what your council advised you, but the local special permit criteria, whether the project is in the best interest of the town or not, is not cognizable under state law, because you cannot make a determination simply on that, that denying the project is strictly necessary to protect public health, safety, or welfare. I'll lodge that objection, you can do with it what you will, but this would be the basis of an appeal.
Now, I wish, I mean, can we,
That's fine.
we're not gonna,
Take it under advisement.
yep,
Yeah.
take it under advisement. I'd like the answer, but we're not gonna.
I guess within ourselves, we can discuss it.
Right.
And to me, the community benefit is one of the categories under welfare. So in that sense, it's a very appropriate, it's just that, instead of having motherhood and apple pie, our zoning, and this has been in place for a long time, has given us a more discrete set of stuff that we have to deal with as opposed to the vaguer terms like welfare, so.
As I understand it, I think where some of the poetic license comes from is the applicant subjected himself to a special permit. We don't have a bylaw in place. So a lot of what we're looking at falls back to our agricultural residential bylaw. And those get a little more specific, and I think probably what David's saying is he's more able to gather that community benefit from that than if you actually had the enabling bylaw in place. That's,
Don't put words in my mouth,
well,
Jeff.
I can't, that's,
Okay,
I probably
that
didn't
may be
mean to.
your belief, but.
But I mean, so, it gets complicated.
At any rate, we've got a motion on the table, it's been
Yep,
seconded.
second one.
Say it one more time.
Oh, we were in okay, we seconded, we were in discussion, but I'll say it again. The proposed use of the building of the structure is not injurious or obnoxious to the neighboring properties.
Okay, and you made a motion, it was seconded,
Yep.
okay?
And what I was gonna say was, this is probably this would have been a real hard sticking point for me, but
But we might want to read, just so the audience knows, the document we have in front of us that was provided by town council has a note on this. and-
right, and that's where I was gonna go,
Okay, good.
is during discussion with town council, it became very apparent that that language that was proposed, the use is not injurious to the neighboring, I'm gonna read what she wrote.
Right.
Property sets forth an objective rather than a subjective standard. The factual question is whether there would be injury to the abutting property such as runoff, noise, vibration, etc. This question is not whether the abutters personally or subjectively feel that the proposed use of the structures are obnoxious or injurious. So, kind of where I was really putting some of my feelings, you really gotta have something concrete as to how it affects the neighbors. It's just not gonna be that I hear a little noise or the birds don't, you gotta have something really concrete that shows whether it's obnoxious or injurious.
Okay,
So let me just continue on that line. So the only thing I could think of that affects the property as opposed to the property owners would be if the project decreased property values, and it's a rather hard thing to evaluate, right? That we don't really have any good data one way or the other. Most of the data out there about solar installations that I could find had to do with panels on roofs and things like that, and I really couldn't find any objective data one way or the other on the issue. I mean, certainly the property owners were concerned about that, and that was expressed many times during the public hearing, but I personally have not been able to find any evidence either for or against the assertion that such a project would.
On one of our handouts from, I believe it was from the Commonwealth, it indicated that it would add to the property values.
That was for roof-mounted solar. This is not for industrial scale stuff, so. That is just a comment that
Okay. You ready for a vote? Chuck?
This particular one, I am gonna vote no.
Okay. And I'll vote yes. David?
I know I gotta get off the fence. I'll vote yes.
And I'm a yes.
Okay. All right, let's go to C. That the proposed use, building, or structure will satisfy a community need or convenience not otherwise being served. Discussion.
We need a motion in a
We
second.
need a motion. I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion. The proposed use of building or structure will satisfy a community need or convenience not otherwise being served.
Is there a second? All right, I'll second it.
And now, would someone explain that to me?
I thought you were Jeff.
I was waiting for the discussion.
Yeah. No, I had a really hard time with this one because I certainly agree with the fact that we lose power too often in this community. And being a bifielder who's, like Mike, has gone about a week without
That's just
power.
what I said.
Yeah, but at the same time, what I see is that it's not due to the availability of enough electricity, it's the aging infrastructure that's not doing a good job of delivering it to us, that we get more power than we need around here, actually. We can get more from Canada if we need it. Cape Wind is coming online, so I don't think the power itself, supplies a need to the community, and I was kind of puzzled because it's sort of neutral. It's like, well, it's not screwing up any need or anything like that. So I was really having a hard time with this one. It's like Jeff said, what does this really mean?
But then, does it go back to the fact that it's tax revenue that we would not be receiving otherwise?
That's what town council.
And that's what town council probably would, so
Yeah.
if you think of it cut and dried in such a fashion, I mean, certainly it doesn't seem as the towns, this is probably not a great subject to bring up, but it doesn't seem, Tracy's done a good job trying to streamline things. We did have tremendous cuts that were certainly, we're starting to maybe, cost of education's going up. Doesn't seem like we're gonna get an override in this town soon. So, sometimes, you look to just like broadening a corridor on Route 1 and proposing commercial benefits to the town. I suppose increasing the tax base has a community need or convenience not otherwise being served.
So to sum things up, the need is we need more money.
Yep.
Interesting.
So,
That's all I could get out of it.
as Michael had said earlier, it adds to the power grid, it adds to our monetary income. I believe it does serve a community need.
All right. I'm gonna add one other thing, and I know this is just the beginning for solar, all right, but nobody, everybody thinks things can't happen here. Most of our power probably comes from Niagara Falls, and if something happened, it seems like we're getting more and more into the terrorist mode. If somebody wanted to knock out something, they can knock out one of these big power stations or whatever, they could put the whole eastern seaboard out. Okay. I think in time, you're gonna see a lot of small places, there's gonna be solar, I think there's gonna be power from the tides, that up in northern Maine, near the Canadian border, there's at different locations, all feeding the grid. And in other words, where you have more than one location, there's a good chance you'll probably have power, and you won't have it all knocked out by just destroying one location. And I can't be at the nerve. We're benefiting. We're gonna benefit from it one way or the other. It may not be a lot in the beginning, but I think it will be in the end.
We'll vote.
Okay? Ready?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yeah, I vote yes on this one.
Mike?
Okay, I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we ready for D? That the proposed, that the proposed use, building, or structure will not affect the abutting and nearby properties by increasing traffic and on-street parking. I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve. Any other discussion? Okay, Chuck?
We voting now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll vote yes on that one.
Okay, I'll vote yes on it.
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Okay, you're a yes, David?
Yep.
Okay, and Jeff's a yes, okay. And the last one, E, that nothing connected with the use, buildings, or structures such as machinery, vehicles, materials, supplies, equipment, and waste materials shall be stored between the street line and the front line of the structure or building, nor be visible from the street.
Now, is this meant to be like conditioning?
Yeah, on note,
Special permit?
on note number 3, here the question is whether there is machinery, vehicles, supplies, etc., between the structure and the road that are visible from the road. The question is not whether the structure itself is visible from the road. So that's,
But what are we voting on?
That the plan as presented meets these criteria.
right.
Uh,
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that, I'm not quite sure how to, it's such a long thing, how to, I move in the affirmative, however you want to say that.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, we approve?
That we find that the conditions of party, I
We
guess. are
find,
met.
okay, we find, all right. Any other discussion?
Second?
Is there a second? There was a second. Any other discussion?
I didn't see anything in the plan that would suggest that this would not be.
That is, I concur.
Okay. All right, you ready for vote?
Yes, sir.
Chuck?
I will vote yes on that one.
Okay, I'll vote yes on it.
Vote yes.
Yes.
Based on the foregoing, the Board of Selectmen approves or denies the special permit application. So, we really,
Because not everything was an affirmative vote, you're denying.
you're denying it.
And then at the subsequent meeting, the details of the decision document discussed and voted on, right?
Say it again?
I said, it's my understanding that then our next step is that we have to prepare a decision document that explains what our vote was, what the
Yes.
reasons were, and then that gets filed with the town clerk. So going forward, council will draft that, we'll review it, edit as necessary, and eventually
Yes.
Okay.
vote on
And could you just explain what the appeal process is?
I didn't,
What's the appeal process for this? And
it. I think you ought to talk to a lawyer.
you guys don't know what the appeal process is for special permit?
Has to go to, court.
It's been denied, it's a special permit's been denied.
Any rate. Mr. Chairman, we got a lot of other things on the agenda tonight.
So that's
Should we-
it.
Let's
okay.
move
Chairman,
forward.
2-minute
and,
recess?
You want a 10-minute recess? Okay. We'll take a 10-minute recess. Uh, consideration of the special permit application, and we have finished the Cooper City Trail. And
We haven't had the town
finished,
administrator's report.
use of the evergreen.
Those things there that are crossed off are what we did, okay? So you
Okay.
can cross those off.
All
One,
right,
you'll
so we
also-
got-
I'll swap with you, how's that?
All right, reconvene, I guess, did we
We did-
unconvene
we did-
before?
We did committee. Yeah,
All right,
you're gonna
we got number
reconvene.
E, a new
Yeah, but
class.
don't we need town administrator report? Do you have one,
Yeah.
Tracy?
Oh, all right,
Yeah, we're gonna do citizens' concerns, and then,
well, we got no citizens concerned listed, right? Okay,
and we're gonna do.
no public hearings.
Okay, so we.
Town administrators report, okay.
I just wanted to let you know, I understand that you appointed Ginny Creamer as town council at the last meeting, and the flat fee proposal has been executed. It requires Lisa Mead's signature, and that it'll be in effect.
I thought, well, wait, you're talking about the fee proposal, because we continued, we did not.
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about the fee proposal?
The fee proposal for the town legal counsel services?
Right, we did not vote on that, right, as I recall?
We did not, we tabled it.
Right, but you made the appointment.
We
Right.
made the appointment.
Okay, I thought,
I wasn't here.
okay, but, all right, I'm sorry. I did move forward with executing it. I was under the assumption that you
Let's-
wanted to
yeah.
move forward with the flat fee agreement.
Why did I move? then-
Okay.
in order to make this, I move that we approve the fee proposal for town council services.
You're making that as a motion now?
Yeah,
Now,
since we
That's what
didn't.
he
then
said.
I will second that
All right,
Thank
pretty
you.
quickly.
any other discussion on it?
No.
Well, no, if there's any questions, we could ask them, you know? Okay,
Flat fee sounds good.
all right,
Okay, sorry
All
about
right.
that.
so that's done.
Um,
Well, we gotta
the-
vote on it, though.
Vote on it.
All, well, yeah, all in favor?
Right.
Last week, we had the bid opening for the surplus land sales, the last group of the parcels, and I will need the board to vote to approve the high bidders, the winning bids. For 9 12th Street, map U3, lot 87. The winning bid was submitted by Paul Novak for $11,250.
Excuse me, where is this in our packet?
Are you
Pretty
gonna
far
need a
in.
It's
motion?
pretty far in, yeah.
To accept them all.
Okay, thank you.
Ah,
That was
okay.
where I was going.
Okay. We can, if you wouldn't mind, just, well, do you want to do them as separate motions? How would you like
I
to?
do.
If there's a problem with it, just yell hold and we'll go
All right.
back.
Okay. 11 16th Street, map U03, lot 11-8. The winning proposal was submitted by Wallace and Patricia Ramsden in the amount of $28,000. 32 14th Street, map U3, lot 53. The winning bid in the amount of $31,500 was submitted by George and Cynthia White. Hutchins Road, map U3, lot 23, in the amount of $5,000. The proposal submitted by Alexander Tukulski. And, let's see, the Yellow School at 11 Lunt Street, map U11, lot 66.
Just have a question about that, since the subcommittee is reviewing that proposal this week.
Right. Yep, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, do we wait for the subcommittee to review the proposal, or do we go ahead and vote? and
I
then-
think they'll make a recommendation to the board. They're meeting this week? Thursday morning, and then they'll make a recommendation to the board on whether it met
So
the
should we skip
evaluation
over that one for
criteria.
now?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see, 87 Middle Road, map U36, lot 9. The winning proposal was $21,099, submitted by Valerie McCleary, and that is it.
All right, motion,
Motion to approve.
second?
With the exception of the Yellow School.
Right, motion to approve with the exception of that. Any other questions on the discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Done. Good.
So we've got,
Lots of good work was done there, but lots of people.
so we still got 4 hanging out there,
Take a second here
huh?
to thank everybody involved in all of this, especially the committee, the hard work, Martha, thank you all.
So we still have 4 properties then that, what we'll do, once again, put them up for bid or wait for a while or?
At some point in time, I think we need to do another evaluation of those parcels and see if they have any value.
Which ones are these?
The very end of the,
At the end of the document, there were 4 other parcels, 6 Blue Hill Ave West, 15 Hutchins Terrace, 71 Old Point Road, and 119 Old Point Road. Because this is the second time most of those have been advertised and haven't,
Did
Had
we
any
approve
potential
the Yellow
bidders.
School one?
no, the evaluation team is going to make sure it met all of the criteria set forth in the RFP, and then they'll make a recommendation to the
Okay.
board. Okay. I received notification from Linda Allen of the Byfield days. The dates are June 7th through the 9th. Friday night will be the cruise night and ice cream social. Saturday will be the kids' fun run, parade, and carnival, and Sunday will be the road race. Also, just wanted to make you aware of the fact we had submitted a disaster declaration to the Department of Revenue for their consideration, which would allow us to overexpend some of our departmental budgets resulting from the incident occurring out on Plum Island. And we did receive notification from Jerry Perry, the Director of Accounts, that will allow us to overspend by an amount not to exceed $20,000, which is less than what we had anticipated. Yeah, about 13,000. We do have to cover the deficit, so we'd have to take action at a subsequent town meeting, but it just allows us some flexibility in those accounts.
Revisiting Byfield Day, did she put a request to close the road yet?
Yes, we
I
did
think
it.
she did last
We
week.
did that last
Okay.
week.
Yeah.
All right, thank
she
you.
did last
Also, I got a request, but it's too late to go on today's meeting, and we'll get it next time. Requesting permission to put a banner on the backstop over here,
Oh,
announcing it, so.
Still plenty of time.
Yep.
Okay. Also wanted to announce that we now have our online billing live, so residents can go paperless by signing up for the new program. I'll provide the website information to the Daily News, so they have that, and it allows them to both receive their billings as well as make their payments online. So that's a new program. And also wanted to announce that our town accountant took the certification examination and did pass. So she is now a certified Massachusetts auditor. You hopefully will receive some type of formal notification from the association, but if you happen to see her, congratulate her. It's a very grueling exam, and most people do not pass it the first time, so it's quite an accomplishment. Okay. That's all. Yep.
We have 3 one-day liquor licenses for protection number 2, the functions in May 12th, from 2 to 6, May.
I'll make a motion, we approve them.
Second motion.
Okay, any questions on them? Did you have a chance to look at them? You know what we're doing? Okay,
Yep.
Kathy, and all the paperwork's in? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Joe,
Okay.
we did not deal with item E on the first page.
Okay, a new Class 2 license, All-American Automotive at 61 Main Street, Byfield. Is that right in the packet right before it, maybe?
Yeah, it's right in the beginning.
Right here.
Okay. All right. From James Richards, 16 Gardner Street, Salisbury. Okay, could you tell us what your plans are?
It's gonna be just general auto repair and some used car sales.
Okay. First of all, motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
Okay, second?
Motion.
Okay, discussion, questions for the gentleman?
Hours of operation? maybe?
What?
Hours of operation.
Okay, yeah, hours of operation,
8 to 5.
8 to 5, all right.
That's Ted Cole's building, the old
I think it used to be Byfield Auto
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Byfield
okay.
Radiator
All
at
right.
some point.
I just wanna make sure I'm in the right building.
All right,
Out front or out back?
Out front.
Out back, okay.
8 to 5 weekdays?
Yes, and
Who's
probably,
up front? Who's up
I'm
front?
not sure on Saturdays. It's
Nobody
probably
knows.
gonna be a half a day or
Rent's too high.
three-quarters of a day on Saturday.
Who owns it, Freddie?
No, Teddy Cole's daughter.
All right.
Really?
Okay, anyway.
all right. One thing out there, in the past, we've had some concerns, some of the people over there that got overcrowded. If you just watch it and keep it looking
Oh, the
not
amount of
overcrowded.
Yeah, I've already
You know.
done a lot of cleanup there.
Okay,
I didn't really like the looks of the building when I
Yeah.
went there to lease it.
it's gonna be good for business to
Yeah,
freshen it up a little
I
bit.
don't like the way they represented it. It just was, I told him it's not my style.
Yeah.
And he's approved me to do whatever repairs to the hot top and
Okay,
some landscaping and stuff out front to kind of clean it up, so.
that'll be good. Any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll see you there for coffee.
David? Okay. All right. Extension of appointments for the election workers for 4/23/13. 12,
I'll make a motion, we appoint them and also include the young people that are doing community service, they're volunteering their time. Where are they from? Kathy? Triton. To include them also.
okay. Are they appointed or are they just gonna be helpers?
They're gonna be appointed because we're gonna let them cover for people that. need
Okay,
to-
good. All right, do we have the names?
Yep.
Okay,
know what-
they're on the list, okay.
Yep.
All right,
I
okay.
second that.
Any discussion, questions on these people? These are the ones that have been doing it for years, except for the kids, right?
Yeah,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
kids are on the next page.
All right, from Sam Jocelyn, alternative outdoor seating, daytime hours, Plum Island restaurants. Questions of allowing the serving of alcoholic beverage on these outside tables.
Okay. You ready for a motion?
Yep,
I'll make a motion that we approve the picnic tables, but not allow the sale of alcoholic beverages. In other words, they can't consume alcoholic beverages out there,
all right,
okay? And my reason being is that, most restaurants that have outdoor seating, you have to go into the restaurant and then come out into the patio area, and then that's actually part of the restaurant. Here, you can come and go, and it'd be very easily to pass off a drink to a young person or whatever, and you wouldn't be able to control it. And I just don't feel there should be any alcohol outside. It'll put their licenses in jeopardy.
okay.
Plum Island Restaurant, that's the one right on the very, very corner of Sunset and Northern. That's not the Beachcomber, that's the Plum Island
No, it's 2 of the
Restaurant.
4 restaurants.
It's two of the 4
Beachcomber,
restaurants
Mad
located on
Martha's.
Plum
Mad
Island.
Martha doesn't have a liquor license.
Right.
They're BYOB.
So that would be
They're bringing
Beachcomber
a
and,
bottle.
that would be Beachcomber and Plum Island Grill. That's where the liquor licenses are.
Yeah,
Now, you know what, Joe?
What?
Maybe you should read this. You wanna read it, so everyone gets a
Okay.
feel for it?
Recently, 2 of the 4 restaurants located in Plum Island have asked to place a couple of picnic tables on their property, exterior to their dwelling.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
These tables are being requested due to a number of wet and/or sandy customers walking from the beach to their establishments, and oftentimes without proper footwear. The proposed tables would be for daytime use only and to accommodate pedestrians from the beach. As such, there would be no additional parking required. I have approved the placement of no more than 2 standard picnic tables on a trial basis for the 2013 summer season. Tables would be allowed from Memorial Day to Labor Day and can be populated up until dusk. Assuming these tables do not create parking issues or other problems, it's my intent to allow this alternative seating to be used seasonally without approvals. I've also contacted the ABCC regarding the serving of alcohol at these tables, and they are deferring this to the local jurisdiction. With just daytime use, I feel the risk of serving larger quantities of alcoholic beverages at these tables is minimal and would ask your consideration for approval. Respectfully, Sam Jocelyn. Okay. So, you don't want to,
I don't mind them having the picnic tables to serve food. I don't want alcohol served out there. I don't want
Okay.
them consuming alcohol at those picnic tables.
Okay. In other places, what they've done is they build a fence around them, like they cordon them off.
And you have to
and-
go through the restaurant.
To get to 'em.
And waitresses,
So,
staff of the restaurant serve them.
all right. So I think what you've got a good point here, and if they want to do that and create that other thing, then they can come before us again.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I think I agree with Mike on that.
Yeah, all right.
Didn't get a second on
We didn't, all right, second on Mike's motion?
I'll second.
Second, okay. Any other questions?
Let's revisit the motion. The motion was for the picnic tables without alcohol, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what he
Okay.
said.
Those, they
All
can't
right.
consume it, whether they bring it or,
Okay, I agree.
No,
Okay.
no, yeah, well, they wouldn't be able to, I don't think you can bring alcohol onto the property of a place with a license.
Mad Matthews doesn't
They don't have
have
a
a license,
license.
but they gotta bring your own bottle type
Right,
thing.
but I don't think a place that has a license for liquor, you can bring your own to it,
You can't.
but, whatever.
That's why it's probably only 2 of the 4
That's why
restaurants.
it's only Mad
So
Matt's.
that's why it's only 2.
And the other thing, there's no alcoholic beverages allowed on the beach, right?
You know, I don't know, I've no, do we have a bylaw on that?
Yeah, zero
Okay.
tolerance.
All right. All right, motion's been made, second. Any other questions on it? No? All in favor?
Aye.
of- Okay. Good. What else we got?
Communications, I think we're down to.
Communications, like I said, I got a letter from Linda Allen on putting up a banner, and it came in too late to put on the agenda for tonight. It'll be next week. There was another thing that's come up, and we'll put it on the agenda for next week, is a situation where the clam commissioner is gonna come before us with a complaint against one of the clammers, so we'll be hearing that next week. So, we need the people represented here.
Yep.
Anyone else got anything?
Just warrants.
Warrants?
Oh,
Yeah.
here we go.
So motion to adjourn?
If we don't have anything else.
Tracy, you better take
All right,
this.
all in favor? Anyone want to adjourn? All in favor?
Oh, yeah, motion to adjourn.
That's the second one.
I'll
A
second.
vote?
Aye.
Aye, okay, good. We're adjourned.
Boy, turn.